The issue for CEOs for quite some time now has been what to do with cash. And share buybacks have been going on aplenty, and acquisitions are obviously more accretive than share buybacks are. So in a sense, that's a good thing. But I think there's a real danger. A lot of the stats that we're looking at right now, we're at quite a dangerous time because we're looking back compared to a year ago. And if we look at some long-term trends, then the long-term trends are very, very negative. But in the short term, 1 year, 6 month comparisons, we see a lot of, what we're calling a sort of dead cat bounce that's got out of control. The dead cat's kind of, somewhere stratospheric now, and it probably shouldn't be because it's getting totally disconnected from a lot of real, underlying fundamental realities.
Well, you're a youngster. You probably don't remember 1999.
I wish.
Yeah. So we all remember 1999, and we all remember 2006, 2007.
Sure.
And I remember exactly what he and I were saying in 2006, 2007. But it takes a long while or something
Absolutely.
out of the ballpark to get people's collective concern actually revved up a little bit, rather than the amnesia or the irrational exuberance. So what will change from now to a change of mindset? Because I agree with you, but it's hard being concerned, it's hard worrying about valuations at the moment, it's hard worrying about geopolitics, when actually we're off to the races.
Well, yeah, let me answer that in a slightly different way. So since about 2012, which is the last time I remember being, reasonably bullish, 2010, 2011, we stopped being bullish at the end of that, going into 2012. We've been really concerned about the structure. There's a lot of real structural issues, once in a lifetime, 1920s style structural issues that are threatening to come home to roost. We've not been saying that they were about to come home to roost until kind of now. Now is the time when we're genuinely getting worried that these things are likely to start to have an impact. And the reason for that is that just this disconnect between reality and market pricing is certainly at levels beyond anything I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I think markets are pricing that the reflation trade is going to work. They're pricing the Trump train to reality, and we see a real lot of headwinds coming up for that. Not so much in first half of this year, but second half of this year. I think it's going to be obvious that a lot of the checks, the blank checks that the markets are writing, are not going to be able to be cashed. That growth is not going to come through.
So if you think it's coming later, we have an opportunity here to pick up pennies in front of the steamroller.
If you're smart enough and brave enough to do that, and in a sense, that's what we've been doing for a little while. Because last year I was saying it's a really hard year to invest. Opportunities were there, markets seemed like they had to rally, and what we did is we invested, but we hedged. We very much hedged the risk. This because we thought there was still some time to go before we fell off the edge of a cliff. One of the best analogies I can think of is the French manager Didier Saint-Georges, who works for Carmagnac. For the last few months, he's been saying what we're doing is we're dancing on the edge of a volcano. And what we think is, that volcano is sending up big puffs of smoke and it's sending out pyroclastic flows. We're getting closer and closer to that. I'm not smart enough, and I don't know many people who are going to be able to be quick enough to get out of the way when that happens.